Hello, I'm going to show you how to take a piece of wire and attach it in linked clothes into a chain. So before I start, I just let you know that I save all of my little pieces of chain, and one of my best sellers is taking those little pieces and making a chain with the beads throughout. Beads that match and chain that matches but isn't the same, and make a really funky necklace. It looks really cool when it's done. So don't throw out your extra pieces of chain. Um, Even if they're just little pieces, you can use jump rings to link them together as well. Okay, so I have two pieces of chain. They're slightly different. And with a small chain like that, I generally like to use a 24, sometimes a 22 gauge round wire. Now, if you're using a thicker 22 gauge, a harder 22 gauge, you would be able to get away with just looping it and cutting it off. But I'm going to show you how to close it. So you take your pair of round nose pliers and make sure that your loop is big enough that it'll slide through the chain and give you room to hold on to the loop. So I just made my little hook, attach it onto the chain, and then when I close it, I'm going to take a pair of chain nose pliers or flat nose that are small enough that I can slide onto the loop and have the chain resting on one side and have that spot where the wire is going to start connecting to one another. See, like this? They're going to connect to each other, but see, I can still see that where they're overlapping each other. And then I generally like the wire facing upwards and then turning away from me. I find that I have more control that way. Might take a bit of fumbling around to find the right position for you. And when I turn, I pull with tension with my index finger and thumb so I can get that wire wrapped right around the 24 gauge wire. So it's two wires that aren't twist tying together, like these guys coming together, but one's wrapping definitely over the other. And I don't usually go more than two times unless it's necessary, and I underestimated how much room I had. Um, for my final loop, but you just cut that off, tuck it in, and this way if you have two wraps, you're less wire and more bead, and sometimes if you're having too many beads or too many loops in your links, it can become stiff on your necklace. So try not to use too many beads in your links and not too many loops. Okay, so those are the beads that I'm going to put in there. I would say that would be about maximum in length. Maybe a little bit longer would be okay, but it's also depending on how many sections you choose to do. So another tip is, see how this loop is facing this way? I like to do the other loop the opposite way, so the other loop is gonna be noticeable. I'll show you again and lift it up when I'm done. And this way I find that the chain twists less. So I'm gonna make my loop, my hook, and attach it onto the chain. Trying to make it approximately the length of two loops between the bead and where the hook is. See how the chain is dangling? You just slide the beads out of the way and turn that loop closed. Now, if when you do this and close it, you notice that your loops aren't opposite each other right away, you can gently twist them to get them opposite. Tuck it in. There you go. There's a closed link in a chain.